Hello, hi. Welcome to Maputo Fast Forward 2021. Bem-vindos a Maputo Fast Forward. Hoje vamos abrir com uma conversa da exposição The Intense Now. It will be in English, but please do feel à vontade para falar em português no momento de intercâmbio com os artistas. We have enough people speaking both languages e vamos fazer dessa maneira bilingual, casual translations when needed. Podemos traduzir quando tem necessidades. In the name of Maputo Fast Forward team and Diocese Neto, I'm very happy to open that session, and I will let Rui Trindade, the program director, say a few words.
Boa noite a todos. Good night to everybody. Welcome to this session. I'm going to be very brief, just to say that, give you a little background on how this all started. Back in 2018, César was the curator of this exhibition, was here in Maputo and participating in the Maputo Fast Forward of that year. And it was the beginning of many conversations that we had, and always interesting conversations, I should say. And one of the things, among many others that we discussed, was about the digital and about how artists could, explore the digital realm, could put it and intervene in a way that was just not a mere transposition of things that exist physically, and eventually try to explore the language, the grammar of the digital. And after many conversations this year, because of the theme of the festival, which is Cosmopolitics and Afrotopia, especially I had been reading Afrotopia, the book by Felwine Sarr, and that was the starting point also of a number of conversations in which we came about the idea of doing an online residency, which is something not very common, and a situation that we are all exploring how to do it and how to work it out. And in order to produce something, a piece of art, something that would be experienced online, eventually later, I don't know, maybe done as a physical installation at one point, it had to be conceptually a different thing. So this was the starting point, and I'm very, very happy that César and Valerie and Nandele and João accepted the challenge, and it was a very fascinating and very rich, inspiring process. So we are all very happy and very proud of what they did, and I hope you will enjoy it as much as we did working on it. I mean, in being involved in the process. And I will just give the microphone to César and thank him very much, and thank you all of them, all of you. As Elodie just mentioned, podemos falar em português, podemos fazer perguntas em português, alternando com inglês, so feel free and enjoy. Thank you. And I'm going to ask João and Nandele to come and sit here, please, so that we can pass to the next phase of this. João?
I think I will start, right? I'm allowed? Yes. Well, thank you very much, everybody. Just a little words in Portuguese, just to say hi to people in Maputo. Olá, Maputo. Tenho imensas saudades de estar aí. Um abraço a todos os amigos. Eu queria estar lá fisicamente, mas pronto. São as condições que temos este ano, mas fica este grande abraço desde Cabo Verde. First of all, thank you, Rui, for inviting me to work on this. Hi, Rui. Where are you? Hello. Thank you very much. Thank you, Elodie, for the support and becoming this possible. Thank you, Tina, for all your work. I don't know if you're there, but I just wanted to say a word. I must say it was a real pleasure listening to Felwine Sarr and Mia Couto yesterday, talking about the necessity to think about new metaphors for our realities. Indeed, this project started from the reading of the book Afrotopia by Felwine Sarr, in which he proposes to question how we define, for example, the future of Africa. And here is what he says. This is a quote by Felwine Sarr that I love. Since Africa is the future and it will be the future, this rhetoric claims implicitly that Africa presently doesn't exist. So our proposal was to look at the present, our everyday life, as a source of everything we need to imagine our future. Be open to the sounds and rhythms and colors and emotions of your everyday life. That was the proposal. And be open to the emotions inside and outside the intimacy of your own home. And the resulting work is how the artist responded to the question of everyday life. The intent now is also an online project, is an online residency. It is a digital piece of art, because digital is the world of today, and we have to question what it means in our context, in our African context. How does digital impact Africa in a very broad sense, from mining to algorithms? How can we, as artists, create aesthetically in this world, in this digital world? These artists, these participants in this residency, gave some interesting response to this provocation too. Speaking of the artists, I wanted to acknowledge their generosity. The group worked out wonderfully. This work, with and without the music by Nandele, for example, is two different experiences. The participation of the poet and visual artist from Tanzania, Valerie Amani, brought so many layers to the project. And the artist and designer João Roxo really joined all pieces together in a smooth way. Big thank you, guys. I miss you already. I miss the Friday sessions. And now, after these few words, I invite you to watch 7 minutes of the work. So I will share my screen and hope that you can see and listen well. Just a minute. Okay, I guess you have my screen now.
São mais de 3 dezenas de bandeiras que estão a reclamar desta nova medida da Câmara Municipal da Praia, que exige que as peixeiras que não têm ponto fixo abandonem o local até 5 de janeiro, procurando outro mercado da capital para se instalarem. Segundo estas, a autarquia está a colaborar para promover o desemprego no país, tendo em conta que sempre trabalharam neste mesmo ponto e não têm para onde ir.
Não tem que sair na rua, mas sabe o outro copo da ponto para vir peixe. Agora não tem muito ano de vir peixe no mercado. Nós se que tem que vir falar não está seguro, não paga pedra. Tudo que é sem tirar escuro. Quem que tem pedra, quem que tem tudo sem tirar escuro. Se não peixe no banheiro, então quando eu choro sem pagar sem tirar escuro.
Tudo que ele tem ali, me que vende, junto com quem aqui tem, mas tive com me mano vende ali. Então tá, chama gosto da minha escapou de bentram, pamba jobi chadinho, chara Santo Antônio, paiol, onde que lugar lá pamba vende, pô milanga conjuga costuma vende lá.
Pois ano chuva que chove. Não é que daí, deve andar de mercado, não mas lá para a porta todo dia. Não deve lá para a porta todo dia, não cada porta, nunca para a porta, tudo para a porta. Agora esse que entra um artigo, mas fica um artigo na venda. A secretária, minha tem pedra. Minha põe aqui esse tem pedra, que tem peixe, não põe na banheira, mas não banha pedra todo dia. Gosto de pensar que o mas não tem pedra, o sócio, mas tudo está na casa, o ninho não está aí.
Estas vendedeiras dizem ainda que não veem a necessidade de redução de pessoal, pois as bancadas nunca foram suficientes para obrigar todas as peixeiras, mas que sempre trabalharam juntas sem problema.
Às vezes mas alguém tio, mas sarochar, mas não caja, mas nós quem que tem tio, que tinha que tem. Como nós somos é mais difícil.
Que dá para sarochar, não sei que câmara que está falando de sarochar. Tu especial da mata com banheiro bancário. Não vem tudo direito. E hoje não vai dar ganhar com banheiro com faca, não vai fazer nada. E hoje dá-se solução de hoje, não vem tudo para com banheiro.
Em resposta a estas reclamações, a Câmara esclarece que com esta medida está a fazer cumprir o regulamento de organização do mercado. Isto porque a Casa do Peixe dispõe de 34 bancadas, mas conta no momento com mais do dobro deste número de peixeiras. É preciso um processo de descongestionamento do espaço, uma questão de saúde pública, sanidade e de segurança, conforme explica a coordenadora da gestão do mercado.
Organiza o mercado com mais de 1 vendedeiras de supermercado. A Câmara já abriu outro mercado, acho de Pontabelão, que pode descongestionar, foi criar condições para que as outras vendedeiras. Às vezes que até fica na rua, tem outros mercados.
Esta é uma política que deverá ser adotada até o dia 8 de janeiro. Terá permanecer no espaço de venda todas as 34 peixeiras devidamente identificadas e localizadas.
Fez hoje balanço das ações da Polícia Nacional nos últimos dias, particularmente da operação especial de prevenção criminal, levada a cabo ontem em diferentes bairros da cidade da Praia. Uma mega operação que se prolongou por cerca de 5 horas, com participação
Neste sábado, prende-se com um episódio que envolveu recentemente 2 grupos rivais naquele bairro e que provocou a morte precoce de um jovem.
Valerie Amani, de 33 anos de idade, morador da zona de Quelé, na cidade da Praia, foi assassinado esta manhã nas proximidades da sua residência. O autor do crime usou uma arma de fogo, deu-se ao posto de fuga seguinte. Boa noite, a Polícia Nacional registrou em agosto um ciclo de criminalidade na cidade da Praia, com 7 homicídios. De janeiro a agosto foram 18 casos de homicídios.
Uma operação especial
São mais de 3 dezenas de bandeiras que estão a reclamar esta nova medida da Câmara Municipal da Praia, que exige que as peixeiras que não têm ponto fixo abandonem o local até 5 de janeiro, procurando outro mercado da capital para se instalarem. Segundo estas, a autarquia está a colaborar para promover o desemprego no país, tendo em conta que sempre trabalharam neste mesmo ponto e não têm para onde ir.
Não tem que ser na rua, mas a outro copo da punta na vende peixe. Nós não temos muito ano de vende peixe no mercado. Nós que tem que pensar no que se for não paga pedra. Todo dia 110 escuro. Que tem pedra, que tem tudo 110 escuro. Segundo que peixe no banheiro. Então quando a chola tem sempre paga 110 escuro.
Tudo aquele tempo ali, me que vende junto com quem aqui tem, mas tive com minha mano vende ali. Então tá, chama gosta da minha escapou de entrar. Pamba jovi chadinho, chara Santo Antônio, o pai o naquele lugar lá pamba vende, pô, me larga congela costuma vende lá.
Pois a chuva que chove. Não ligo daí. Daí a gente não acaba, então como a gente vai fora todo dia. Não tem bem não, vai fora todo dia, não vai fora, não vai fora, tudo vai fora. Agora es que entra um arquivo e fica um arquivo na venda. A secretária?
Minga tempero. Minga apoio aqui esse tempero que tem peixe não apoio na banheira, mas não apanha pedra todo dia. Eu se eu pensei que ele não se tempero com sócio, mas tudo dá na casa. O ninho não está aí.
Estas vendedeiras dizem ainda que não veem a necessidade de redução do pessoal, pois as bancadas nunca foram suficientes para albergar todas as peixeiras, mas que sempre trabalharam juntas sem problema algum.
Exercício mas alguém tio, mas sarochar, mas não cacha, mas nós quem que tem de cozinha que tem. Vamos nos turnos e
Okay, I just wanted to explain some features of this piece. As we've explained, this is a digital artwork online. It's online. It's a online digital artwork. You have some controls over here, up, right. You can mute and unmute the sound like this. The pieces, they are displayed randomly, and you can redraw as many times as you want to have different experience, to have different combinations of the pieces. You can read about the individual pieces in this index. If you hover over these lines, you can see a small description of each piece. You can go full screen or go back. If you want to know more about the projects and the artist and the concept note, you can come back here and click here, and you have the conceptual notes. You have mini bios of the artists, the partners, and you have the credits over here. This is if you want to know more about the project.
São mais de 3 dezenas de bandeiras.
So it's really simple as navigation, but it's very complex in the interlacing of the work of 4 people, and it's really amazing how we could put everything together and in a smooth way, and personally I like very much the result. So that was it, and now I will invite the artist to speak. I will I will invite João Roxo to start and to say some words, and then Nandele, and then Valerie to explain their experience and whatever they want to say about this project. So thank you for watching. We will keep talking in a minute. Thank you.
Thank you all. First of all, we're going to play a short video that we designed for and edited for this the purpose of this residency. It's a small compilation of the process and also the final result. So, first of all, to thank everyone that was involved in this project, and the artists mainly, and César as artist and curator, for the opportunity, first of all, to...
I can't hear you guys. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Okay.
Yeah, good. So first of all, I would like to thank everyone for the opportunity, everyone that was involved, and mainly, of course, the artists and César as both artist and curator. This was an amazing opportunity, first of all, to do something that always interested me, which is this bridge between the physical and the digital, or what kind of bridges can we establish between the analog and the digital world. And my role in this process was mainly one of bringing everything together along with César, who coded it. I basically was a part of every session and engaged with each of the artists as well, in doing their own pieces to compose this canvas. This canvas, actually, that's the name that we ended up calling it, using to name it a lot, is kind of an opportunity for the content of each of the participants and creatives to place their work in a context where they can interact with each other. And that was something that was built since the start. We knew that this was more than just a project, that this was a platform that could in the future end up because of it being dynamic, it would allow other artists and other creatives and thinkers to interact with it. And what I personally really like about it is this idea of transparency, that within the process, each of the artists ended up shaping their own work to integrate with the work of the other artists. And I think that's the perfect formula for you to bring in dialogue and creative processes together. Yeah, and I've worked with Nandele, and I've known Valerie and César for a while as well. And yeah, above anything else, the opportunity to be able to interact with these amazing people and artists on a weekly basis, and to share knowledge and expertise and results above anything else. It's really valuable, I think, for us as artists to let ourselves influence, be influenced by the work of others. And I think that this is the perfect example of how that can happen. Yeah, and that's me. I think I'll pass the word on to, I think, Nandele, right, César?
Hello. This microphone is loud. César, can you hear me?
Yes,
Valerie,
perfectly.
Nice seeing you guys. Thanks, Maputo Fast Forward, for a great opportunity to actually basically explore new engaging ideas that somehow it's going to affect the continent in many ways. And one of the things that I pray, if I can convince Maputo Fast Forward, is that the website could be an open source kind of website, so every African in the diaspora can tamper with it, so it could be much more interacting than it is now. Talking about the process itself, it was a very interesting process and personal in some kind of way. I would say personal in general. because the question of saying that the continent, it's only thought about as having a bright future, or we speak of Africa in a future sense or sentence, I would say, where we'd say like Africa has a bright future, Africa, everything about Africa, it's bright. And then the counterpart of it is like, then the continent doesn't exist. So that is very, it's very provocative. And in terms of sound, I think grabbing these two words were essential to it, because I will always think in the present tense. And the present tense in a sense of today, whatever we do today, it's going to impact the future. So if we can be better people today, then of course the generation that will come forth will be better as well. So with the music, basically it was interesting because during the residency I was doing a lot of work as well with projects of mine, especially one of the projects that me and João started, Moave. So I think that somehow influenced the sound, because in that way, whatever was happening to me today or now, it was the catalyst for the music. So I would say COVID, encounters, and whatever we spoke upon on the sessions. So that's a direct reflection in the music. And music for me, it can be many things. You know, you don't necessarily need to go to a movie to create this world in your head. And I think music allows you to expand that world in your head. I'm not saying to people to go crazy or something like that, but we imagine things. So this bright future of Africa, it's very difficult to imagine. Some people make science fiction movies about it. They say Wakanda, things like that. But I'm not the Wakanda kind of person, because I don't think that exploring a mineral under the ground is the salvation of whatever we have to achieve. I think we have to work hard to achieve certain things, either through more friendly ecosystems. But it was a marvelous experience, because whenever Trindade comes with an idea, I wouldn't say it's difficult, but it's inspiring, because it's always a challenge, you know. And I think that's a really great reflection of what this continent is. This continent faces challenges every day. So if we can overcome those challenges, that's why we spoke about the formal and the informal, you know, where the concept of being formal, it's a Western concept. In my point of view, it's a Western concept. It's not an African concept. So that's why we take people off the streets to sell. But probably we were selling that way before. And if we were selling that way before, it was formal. But now today it's informal. So I would like to, I really enjoyed playing with that during the residency. So basically, what we have to do, I think we just set, you know, a platform now. Now we have to build something on top of it, you know. And I think this is just the beginning. Whenever people talk to me and say like, oh, good job or something like that, I always say that the job is not done yet. There's lots to do. There's lots of work to do. Most people like to see success, right, João? But they don't know how the end of the movie is. I'd rather know the end of the movie than what's going on now. And I would propose a new challenge to Maputo Fast Forward, which is let's try and make this website open source. So that way, anyone that's interested in scripts, codes, it doesn't have to be there's no boundaries in terms of age. Even if you're young, you're 5 years old, and you can do whatever with the computer. It would be nice that you can go in there and create your own world within the Intense Now website. Thank you all.
Thank you, brother.
I guess it's my turn.
Yeah, of course.
It's you, Valerie. It's yours.
And I really, my heart really wishes we were there with you in Maputo. I have very fond memories of Maputo. So yeah, thank you everyone. Thank you, César, of course, for being such a great voice of encouragement, a source of inspiration. Thank you, Nandele, for your incredible mind, and also making me rethink my relationship with music and sound. And of course, João, it was a pleasure working with you and seeing how you can transform this online space, things that my mind can't even wrap its head around. And Rui and Elodie and Ernestina, whose voice I also used for one of the pieces. It was really, I think it was one of the most positive online experiences I've had. I was telling César, I've never looked forward to having a Zoom meeting on a Friday, like the way I have in these sessions, just because the creation process for me was very different, just because the collaboration happened without it actually being a formal collaboration. Like we had discussions, people shared ideas, and we'd go back and people would bring something, and we kind of were making a soup. It was like a big soup being made. And maybe I'll start with reading one of the first pieces I wrote as a reaction to this idea of like Africa not existing, the quote by Felwine Sarr, and what it means to be in the now. As an African who, by the way, for the first time, I'm currently in London, my first time kind of being out of the continent. I consider my homes Dar es Salaam, Harare, Johannesburg. Those are the places I was brought up. So being now in the diaspora has been a very strange experience for me. So anyway, I'll start with this poem. The sound of a drowning underground, movement in swarms, an apocalypse collapsing onto itself, stars of distraction, star-spangled ammunition. The end of the world has begun. The explosion arrived late, but already the exports are making us barren for products of products of products. When we were always the utopia, blind to the past of trapped states, still we are waiting for the now. And this poem is basically in reflection of what Nandele was talking about in the beginning about, you know, having these words of informal markets or the third world, and kind of having these philosophies define us, philosophies that are not our own, Western philosophies basically of economic systems, while this is not the communities that we are used to exist in. So, I mean, my whole thought process in creating these works started with this idea of how Africa has not had the opportunity, or it has had the opportunity, but maybe not on a global scale, not on a Western scale, not in an academic sense to define itself, you know? And I think we're very lucky we have writers like Felwine Sarr. I've been reading Achille Mbembe, who's also been great, and Ngugi wa Thiong'o is one of my favorite authors as well, and he speaks a lot about language. And it made me start thinking just about locating myself as an African who is not in Africa. And especially being in conversation with César, who is in Praia, and with João and Nandele, who are both in Maputo, and kind of trying to make these connections of how our different realities can connect. And so throughout the process, I made maps, and I made this video, which was a result of a conversation that we had about languages and words. And I asked them all And I'll ask the audience today to think about this, to take this back home with you. What words have followed you in your life, you know? For me, I brought about the word foreigner, or, you know, in South Africa, there's a terrible word that you saw in one of the videos, makwerekwere, and this is a word that has also followed me, and what that means, and what it means to be foreign in your own continent as well. And these are issues that we face. These are issues that we face to identify ourselves. These are issues that we face in terms of language barriers, that we don't have enough words to bring us together. We don't have enough words to connect us, but we have all these words that create boundaries. One of the things that we also reflected on was, what is the difference between the immigrant and the expat? You know, if you have a French person working in Maputo and Dar es Salaam, they're an expat, but I'm here and I'm an immigrant. So there are these political things that we were talking about that I think the work touches on in a maybe contemporary way, and food for thought. And yeah, I mean, I don't know what else I can say, and other than I think I'm proud of this work that we all created together. The sounds, I think Nandele didn't say this, but I'll say this for him. He had a diary entry and he had an experience with every sound. I think writing was kind of somehow underlying in the creation of the work for me too. I have a lot of experiences being in transport, mediums of transport in London. I take the train every day, which for me is the most foreign thing about being in this country. And I was comparing that to being on the boat, going to an island in Dar, and just the stark contrast between slow and fast. And yeah, a lot of my work has been inspired by just our connection with each other, our secret sharing, and again, maybe just, yeah, how present hearing something familiar, how that can bring you into the now, how that, you know, is very, I think language is very showing of what state people are in and the times that we're in. Language changes all the time. So I think that's something that I chose to represent the now. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Valerie. Now I don't know how this works, but maybe now is the Q&A session. If someone has questions to ask.
I think Rui Trindade has a question.
Yeah. I wanted to thank you all once again, and so I'm going to first answer a challenge that was dropped by casually, as usual, by Nandele. And I always like when he drops these kind of things on my lap. It's always funny. But just to say that I really like the idea of, you know, I don't know if we will be able to do it, but the idea of making it like an open source and transforming the intents now into something more shared and more like an organic thing that can grow can be a really interesting thing, very unique. Well, we never did that kind of thing before, so we will keep going on being experimental as we've been up until now. So thank you, Nandele. It's always very stimulating and inspiring to be around you. And but At the same time, and that is the part of the question that eventually I would put to all of you and to César. And it's sort of a question that was put by someone in a previous session that we did just with a few selected people to have for the artist and the curator and for us all to have an opinion or some feedback on the work. And the thing was, okay, so for all of us, but of course for you in particular, this was kind of a new thing, a new experience in the sense, both in terms of the residency, but that's, I will leave it at that side. I think it can work eventually that way, but more in terms of the work itself. And the question that was put in that session, it's the one I will put now. What were for you the main challenges, and especially how do you see it growing in terms of the things that you thought that, of course, we had the usual problems of, like, you know, budgetary problems and things like that. So maybe we could not expand as much the ideas as we would like to. But I would like to hear from you, even if it is just a personal, emotional, whatever, what you want to share in terms of how you see it going, moving forward, let's say, as a continuous thing, because it was always like our objective. It was just to make this the starting point of something. So that's my question.
May I? I'll go ahead. I think, as I started to say initially as well, this for me is something that, you know, gives space for something bigger and unexpected. Connecting also to what Nandele was speaking about, the non-formality, as opposed to the formal or the regulated and so on and so forth. And I think that's it's precisely those patterns of non-formality that lead to unexpected and interesting results. And I think that this object, the species, is precisely that in the end. So how I see it growing is precisely by giving access, which also connects to something that Nandele was saying here, because when you start to, because this is enclosed within this circle as an experiment, and I think that this canvas has a lot of space for other people to contribute in the world openly, and in that way, you know, I think that it would really lead to some very interesting results. Yeah.
Maybe I could add something, or Nandele, do you want to speak?
Please do, César.
No, I just well, I'm trying to answer the question. I think one of my greatest fear was that people wouldn't be focused on the residency, because this was one of the risk. Online residency, everybody with their lives and different rhythms in different parts of the world. One of the greatest risks was to people not coming together as marvelous as we did. So for me, one of the greatest success of this project was that the group worked out so beautifully. And another thing is about technology. And really, this was not about technology. The canvas itself, it's a very simple piece of software. It's really simple. The navigation, it's almost childish. It's 2 clicks and you have it. For me, the main challenge is bringing people together, and we need money for this. So in our countries, in our context, we must demand for funds. We must be paid. So we need money. So bringing people together is just not the will to be together, but we have to be paid, one of the important aspects. And another important aspect is talking about what is the idea. So it's very important to come up with questions, with a subject matter that can talk to the world too, that can talk to us, but that can talk to the world. So for me, the greatest achievement of this project was a very good group of people, and the questions asked, and the process. So not much about technology, but mostly a human experience, and the way that we managed to bring everything together.
I have a question that I'm going to read from the chat. Marco is asking, how do you all artists feel the concept of experimental collaboration could contribute to this African voice? Could it be seen as a way to empower Africa's steps in this path of reaching other spaces?
That's a very interesting question. I think the key for everything is collaboration, because we can't do anything by ourselves. Therefore, the Maputo Fast Forward is a collaboration. No, the intent now it's a collaboration with Maputo Fast Forward. So there's always someone that has to provide a platform where you can collaborate and make things happen. I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we have in the art sector. I would say, specifically in Mozambique, it's where we have a platform where we can all collaborate. So I think once we don't have to wait as well for Maputo Fast Forward to come over and say, guys, collaborate, you know. I think it's a great initiative, and we should take it from there. From the point where when we finish something, we have to continue. And there's many ways that we can continue. It doesn't have to be necessarily that we have to keep on working on the website, for example. But if artists, we have to break that barrier within ourselves, especially with artists, if we're talking on the artistical aspects. Now, if we talk more on a political and economical aspect, that kind of point of views, or that type of question is very difficult to I would say, to answer, because there's a lot of barriers when it comes to social, economical, and political issues. For example, we live in a country basically that has 2 parties, basically. So the ideology either is for liberation or ideology either for opposition. So to collaborate in that field is a bit difficult. We're 40 years old, so this kind of work that we are doing, it's going to actually, if we keep on working in that direction, probably we're going to change things. And change doesn't come overnight, sorry. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. I've been dreaming for change since I was a child, but I won't stop dreaming and I won't stop working towards it. So we all have something to contribute in it. Now, as artists, I think it's essential. It's very essential that we collaborate. You know, sometimes I speak with guys on the street. I know he's a writer, for example. I'm like, yo, what's up? How are you doing? You've been writing? Yes, I've been writing. Okay, do you need some music for that? You know, You make a nice, you have a nice canvas, you're a great painter. When is your next expo? Oh, my next expo is going to be, I think, next year. Oh, when it's nearby, call me up. I'll give you music. So I think that's the initiative that we should have. Of course, there's the financial thing. I'm an artist 24/7. We have to be paid and stuff and things like that. But let's put the money aside. Let's put the money aside, because it's a conversation between artists. It's not a conversation between institutions. So, of course, everyone that will go to that gallery and will listen to the sound of an artist, they will be like, oh man, these guys, they were paid very well to do it. But I don't think in a generalized way, people would think that I gave the music for free. But that starts the conversation, because the next exposition that they would want to hire the person, of course, that's when it comes the big check. You know, it's tricks. But what we have to do, we have to be open. We have to, you know, you can't say, for example, Moçambique, you know, and you're not thinking in the collective. You know, you're thinking in the personal. You know, the people that fought for this country, somehow they had to collaborate to make things work. Oh, you're a journalist. Yeah, we need you. You know how to write letters. Come through. You know how to do this, you know, and I think that's what's lacking here in the continent. You know, once a certain genre goes mainstream, we think we made it. But we still have artists here that can't even afford to go to a hospital, you know, and we're talking about legends. So collaboration, of course, it's key. We have to collaborate as much as we can. And whenever we can, let's do it. We're not going to be rich now, but I think the following generation, those are going to enjoy the fruits of our labor. Because now we are enjoying the fruits of the labor of the people of the past, with a few glitches, but we are enjoying those fruits of that labor. I think I went off more than 7 minutes, right?
That's fine. But maybe I can just add something to your answer.
Valerie, please.
Nandele. When we speak about collaboration and communal making, I think this is in direct opposition to competition, because I think this is something that we suffer from, especially artists in the continent, when it comes to grants, when it comes to funding, what the very thing that Nandele is speaking about. There's such limited grants and such limited platforms that support artists that we end up competing against each other. And I think, first of all, to have funding that is supported, that is general, that is controlled by artists, I think is a solution. And to have that collaboration in terms of not necessarily creating something together, but having the open communication, having open sources, even like resources. You know, some people, sometimes you ask someone, oh, how did you do that? And they're like, oh, yeah, they don't want to tell you. But like, this is like just having community, as Nandele said, of open sharing, of like, this is a list of all the free programs you can get. This is how you can learn how to do this. This is how, you know, I think that we have to take away this idea of competition that was really instilled with us because of capitalism, of like, you got to make your bank, you got to make this, just because, again, our art industries are very much growing. And if we want to have control of them, we need to be at the forefront of sacrificing and really investing in how people have access to education and how we have access to each other. And anyway, that's all I'll say.
Yes, for example, with the open source thing, it allows you to have that. For example, there's a synthesizer that it's built in Germany. It's called, it's made by Tangible Waves. It's the most affordable synthesizer. It's the cheapest. A synthesizer goes through around €1,000, $1,000. Just, you can even buy a small module for 1,000. So this German guy that I don't remember the name, but he works for, he has a company called Tangible Waves, and they make aggressive electronics. It's one of the names. He created this synthesizer. And whoever is making that synthesizer work much better, it's not the guy who started it. It's the community of artists that are using the synthesizer. So they're always collaborating in that sense. So I just wanted to put in there and say, like, look, it's possible. If we all come together, we can achieve great things.
More questions from the audience?
Ninguém tem nenhuma pergunta? Pode ser. Acho que entrou aí Q&A.
What do you believe is the responsibility of institutions in supporting movements that work for the empowering of artistic creative processes? This, believing that in Africa, art movements are a strong voice in building this path.
César?
Yeah, that's something I wanted to talk about, because it's very important. I was listening very careful to what Nandele was saying about the struggle for independence and the collaboration, but there's a little difference now. That time, everybody was collaborating in a single objective, and everybody was in the same platform. My issue now is our countries, the sectors, they are developing in different speeds. For example, an engineer or a doctor or a lawyer, they have a life. They get paid. They have a career. And so the question for me now, why is not the academia, the researchers, and the artists, why they are not evolving in the country? Why we don't have platforms for our work? Why we don't have funding policies for our works? So yes, it's a public responsibility. It's a debate that we must have in the public realm, and we must push these questions until somebody until we start talking about it, because it's something that is holding us back. If you see nowadays, arts and culture is a very important aspect of countries, of the positioning of the countries in the world. And so countries like ours that are not positioning in this sector, we are kind of holding back. We are kind of behind of what is happening in the world. So we must catch up, and we won't catch up by ourselves. I understand we as artists, we must keep talking and keep exchanging ideas and collaborating, and you give me a piece of music and I give you a piece of video, no problem. But if we want to achieve great things, if we want to be in the main art scene in Africa first, and in the world, we must demand a public debate on this. So I don't know if I answered the question in the Q&A, but yes, it's a public responsibility.
It's a public responsibility, and I think, César, I also like to add my own frustrations with institutions that support artists who are very strict or have a very particular propaganda or agenda, and they're like, we want you to create work about this, and, you know, very much constrain the artist. And I would like to encourage institutions, you know, if you're supporting an artist, you're supporting them to discover things by themselves. And I think there's at least with my experience, there are many institutions who are very, agenda-led in how they support artists and how they make their funding accessible. And usually by doing that, make it very inaccessible to most people.
Definitely. Yeah.
I think that this whole the funding conversation is a long one, and my view on this is actually that I think it's funding and this idea that you depend on external funding, and mainly when it's the northern hemisphere in the West that's supplying most of this funding. I think that there's a lot to talk about there. And I don't have the solution, but I believe that a starting point is to start thinking about decentralization in that sense, like not depending on that source of funding and not expecting on it. I think that artists, you know, true resilience cannot happen if there is some sort of dependency on some sort of an inflow of money. And I think I don't have a solution. I don't think that we found one yet, but I think it can start through governments having more of a strong role in advocating towards art and creativity as a means for what they call social development or human growth, for that matter. And I think that they could, the governments could start with, implementing some sort of a force with the corporate, context as well, in order to generate some sort of something that can keep art flowing and creativity happening in that sense. Yeah.
And besides that as well, just to add on to decentralization and and the capacity of being independent as well, it's the way, because imagine if Europe goes through a Great Depression economically, then Europe will have as priority their own people. Let's just imagine if Europe gets, into an apocalyptic economical problem. Of course, the governments there, they will look upon their own people. So if the funds are dry, what happens? Then there's no art in Africa.
We have one more question of Jamila asking, how do you see how we could improve mobility and collaboration between African artists?
Elodie, could you repeat the question, please?
The question is, how do you see we could improve mobility and collaboration between African artists? Can I reply this in a simple manner? They can come and sleep in my house. Just pay the ticket, they can come to my house. Yeah, pay the ticket, find a way to get the ticket.
Maybe I could add something. And maybe we could expand this idea of art world. Is not nowadays, it's a complex world. It's not only artists. It's a big ecosystem. We must expand the debate to talk about education, to talk about academia, to talk about museums, or whatever you want to call it, places to show our work, or to, I don't know, and media and everything. So what I'm trying to say, we must bring this issue to the public arena, because we are really behind something. We are really behind some context in Africa. Let's not talk about Europe and US. Let's talk about our so-called Lusophone world. We must really question why we are not moving on. So for me, the debate is not only how could artists collaborate and move and everything. It's a bigger question. We need platforms. It's bigger than us. What I wanted to say, it's bigger than us. That's why if we pay taxes, if we are citizens, and if we participate in our countries in various ways, our country must give us something back. Our country needs to respond to some of our questions. So I keep saying that it's okay for me to collaborate and to talk in romantic ways, but really we must push to a bigger debates on the art world, the platforms, education, career, and funding is a part of it. This is not all of it. Funding, it comes naturally, but we must talk about the ecosystem from the very early age to university to retirement. We must bring this discussion.
Can I also add onto that?
Please do.
Very important point. I mean, when we speak about artists collaborating, and as César said, the foundations have to be there. I'm just thinking things like, I know in Dar es Salaam, in public schools, there is supposed to be an art subject or a time for primary school kids to have art, but there are no art teachers. So that time is usually spent doing something else or playing football. We're already instilling, at least in that situation, that the arts are not important, or the arts are separate from daily life, So, I mean, I really loved what, there's a gallery in Kinshasa called Kinart Studio, and they had an exhibition where they basically took a container around all the neighborhoods in Kinshasa showing art. And this is a method of collaboration, not only with other artists, but also the community, just because we have to create that sustainability within ourselves. And if we don't have the social structure, make all of us, across the system of eliteness and of class, realize that this is something that is important for us, it's going to be very difficult to now have the debate of this is why this is important for us. So I think César made a good point that this has to be instilled within our society from the beginning, Yeah, thank you.
And besides that, I think the Ministry of Culture, I won't speak the Ministry of Culture of Tanzania or Cape Verde because I don't know how things are working on that side. But I think the Ministry of Culture here has a big responsibility in collaborating with the artists, because we talk in collaboration. We're not demanding, because I think we always have this attitude towards it, where it's like, you guys, you have to do this for us. You guys this, you guys that. I think we should stop with that attitude. What we should do, it's like, I'm inviting the minister over to sit down with us artists and let's collaborate, you know, because necessarily money. Probably it's like, yo, why don't you, when you go to the European Union, why don't you guys negotiate with them to at least have a special visa for African artists, for example? You know, we need things, laws that can help us work. It's because either ways, besides the, you know, the grants, we've been working. João has been working without grants before. I've been working without grants. I'm pretty sure everyone in this room, to a certain point in their lives, what we need is just something that will bridge us to the platforms, and that's it.
That's an interesting point that you touched upon as well, the idea of space. So it's not, I agree with you, it's not really about money, but about resources. And this whole idea of spaces is one from a cultural standpoint as well, because you know, there's so many buildings that are, you know, culturally or historically relevant, that you know, buildings that bear a history that could be used, you know, in order to, you know, perpetuate this the history itself, and that people, you know, could engage in this space and so on and so forth. It's this idea of heritage for culture, right? There's this really interesting article written by this guy called Rangwato Khlasane from South Africa, Johannesburg. They have this really interesting project called Keleketla Library, which is a community library, which has moved places a lot. And he writes about the whole conversation of funding, and touches upon this the subject of the spaces, you know, and how, you know, it's relevant for the government, or provide for resources for artists to create. Yeah.
I just wanted to add something to the conversation, which I've been finding very interesting. So I agree. I tend to, you know, agree in part with most of the things, some more, some less. What I would like just to say has to do with something that Felwine Sarr spoke yesterday. And it was, he started talking about it in a very specific context. It was about the restitution of works of art to the continent. And while speaking about it, he talked that, you know, most of the discussion has been kind of trapped into things that has nothing to do really with the issue, the central issue. And the central issue is about the symbolic capital, So what we are talking about here, and there is a fight, I believe, to be fought, is that governments, some governments, they do understand the importance of the symbolic capital, and arts and culture are part of it. Okay, so it's not something that is immaterial. It translates directly to material things. And for example, if I take the, you know, the experience with Maputo Fast Forward in Mozambique, so we are, I mean, we are out of the system in a certain sense. We don't belong to the system because the system has a precise idea of the symbolic capital that he wants to promote and invest in. And so I understand the need for public institutions and governments to support these kind of things. And I think that is something that you have to fight to. But let me say that we are part of another fight, which is, I would say, more like a guerrilla kind of thing, but about networking and organizing on another level, because I'm sorry to say, I have no expectation, none, about having public funding. We did not, I expect, I'm not, I just, at this moment, I just got the notion of what I was saying. So I don't think, I want Maputo Fast Forward to happen next year. So I would just say, we have never had just a small cent from the government here whatsoever. We have no recognition in the media. We have nothing. So there is a fight within each country, I believe, regarding what kind of symbolic capital you are fighting for. Sorry, I don't know if it is a little bit off.
No, Rui, I want to add up what you're saying because it's very important. And guy, I think this is really, there is really a broader question here. Africa is still an extraction place. And everything is moving towards that. For example, let's talk about digital. Digital has a concrete representation. You must make computers, and computers we make computers out of chips, and chips are made out of mineral. So there is mining to achieve cloud computing. And Africa in this chain, we are really at the bottom. We are the mining place, but we are not the intelligence place. So talking about art, talking about academia, talking about critical thinking, it's what we are talking about now. It's really about it. And we really must push these issues to come over to of our future. Otherwise, we will still as an extraction place. So for me, there are two levels here. Of course, we can collaborate. Of course, we are thankful for Maputo Fast Forward to provide the platform once a year to these discussions. Of course, we welcome grants and everything that comes. But for me, even as an artist, as a positioning, and even as an aesthetic discourse, we must take into account this situation, and we must be aware that we artists and our friend researchers and there's a lot of people that we are stuck in this place because we are not part of this system that Rui was talking about. We are not part of this project of Africa as an extraction place. So it's a political combat. Thank you.
Hi, I have a question for the panel, and the question is, how do we approach, in Africa, we have many different problems, and we have people doing different things and approaching different situations regardless of the context. But how do we approach, or how do we educate people and the system that we're in about this particular necessity when there are other more, I'm gonna use the Maslow pyramid as a reference. How do we approach the society that we live in with a problem that I would say it's in the third or fourth level of the pyramid versus the problems that are on the base, on the bottom? Because if we are not able to solve our problems on the bottom, we won't be able to solve the other problems on the levels above. So how do we engage the society, or how we engage the context that we live in, trying to present a problem that in a pyramid scheme is above the most basic needs and necessities? Thank you.
Thanks. If I may respond to it. Yeah, I have so much to say about that, actually. I think I think
the conversation here is
it's
going to be fire.
We have 5 minutes. I think necessity is the mother of invention in that sense, and the less comfort you have, the more ingenious you are in finding solutions for any given problem, in that sense. And we are focused on that, you know, the biblical pyramid in that sense. I think that's a concept that's been questioned, but it's a really good base to discuss these things. And I think that we, you know, in the global South, or at least in the context we live in here, we deal a lot more with the base of the pyramid or the bottom of the pyramid. And that in that sense, I think it's really valuable to live in that context, you know, of need. But of course, there's always that balance, you know, and I think that the way that we can achieve that is by doing and finding unexpected ways through non-formal, you know, means. Because if we keep following the rule or the regulation or the templates that you download from the internet, you're just going to end up doing the same thing as everyone does. And yeah, that's me.
Yeah, basically, I agree with you. Basically, we have to decide that for ourselves. You know, we have to see the problems. First of all, the main thing is we have to see the problems for what they are. You know, and that's the main thing. I think that's the main problem, especially in Maputo. We try to sugarcoat things. You know, we have to see the things from what they are. When you see a problem, that problem is a mirror to your problem. Because all of the houses here has shared the same water bomb problem. It's the same noise. Why do we need that noise? You know what I'm saying? We buy, even if we go to the biggest mall here and buy stuff, we all buy from the same signora on the street. You know, so it's that game of the informal and informal. And I will go much further. You go to the doctor first time. Oh man, I don't think you're going to make it. You go for the second time. Hey, you only have 3 days. You know what happens? What all Mozambicans do after the doctor says you're not going to make it? They take the shoes off, get the capulana, the sandals, and they will go to Componi, Congoloti, Costa do Sol, and meet the witch doctor. So we're not that far from that reality because we were taught to think different. So that's why we can't make things happen in a certain way because we're having all these expectations, you know. I won't say who is who, you know, because, you know, we're talking. But we have to see things for what we are, and we have to make our own solutions. If you have an elastic and you put on that machine and the noise stops, we have to ask you how you did it. Oh, let's make an elastic now that is a product and we sell it. Those are the type of solutions that we have to have, you know, for our own problems. Because the bottom will always be the bottom. You know, whatever context you put it, the bottom will always be there. You can go up, you know, como dizem, o pobre quer ser rico, mas o rico não quer ser pobre. So the bottom is always there. It's a reminder as well. Thank you for your question. You had a great question, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I can add too much because I think it's a very urgent question. And I think, you know, I'm sitting in my home, everyone is sitting there. We have certain luxuries and privileges available to us. And as you said, with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the bottom of this pyramid is just basic food, safety, clean water, shelter. And when we speak about, you know, things like institutions and art and academia, this is something in the majority of African people's reality are not a priority. But what I do find interesting is how we interpret art and how we interpret academia and research, because the street seller has a certain amount of research and a certain amount of artistic practice that he has to incorporate in his daily life. So, I mean, it's a difficult question and I definitely do not have the answer, but I think one of the things that we can start doing is changing the perception of what it means to be an artist, what it means to be creative, and what it means to be a researcher or a valuable member of this way that we collect research and that we create our societies. Because, yeah, again, sitting in a way that is informed by greater global north or whatever institutions, it becomes difficult to include the people who deal with the bottom of the pyramid as their daily lives. I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, personally, I think this pyramid is a dangerous trap. I don't believe in this pyramid. And it's why this is precisely the narrative about Africa, that we are dealing with the bottom of the pyramid. I totally disagree. Because if you have plains in your country and you have highways and you have mining and you have all sorts of things and you have billionaires and you have everything in Africa, you have the whole pyramid. But then there is these arguments that oh, you are talking about media art when you're dealing with the bottom of the pyramid. And for me, it's precisely the question, why we can escape from the bottom of the pyramid when we have everything in this continent. So I think this pyramid is a trap. I don't believe in it. I don't believe, at least Cabo Verde. I don't believe we still dealing with basic needs. Maybe at the date of independence, yes, everything was to build, everything was to solve. But nowadays, I don't believe neither Cabo Verde or Mozambique or Nigeria or South Africa are dealing with the bottom of the pyramid. I disagree with this view. We must demand artists and scientists and a higher thinking, is what Felwine Sarr is talking about. We must come up with ideas. And we don't come up with ideas, we accept being at the bottom. Yes, that was a quick note. I don't know how much time we still have, and
yeah, not much. It's what I propose is there is one comment I can read, and then I will let you guys come up with closing statements. So we have Jamila saying, as artists, we have the gift to provide healing and joy to people. through our work, we should be able to create impact and create a better environment for people to move up the pyramid. We have to ask ourselves, how can we create more opportunities for us and the community where we are? I will leave you, César. I will let you finish and close with the intense now artists.
Yeah, maybe somebody else could answer, and maybe we could each one of us make some comments, some closing comments. What do you think? João, could you answer to Jamila? Hi, Jamila.
It was a statement. Okay.
It was a statement or a question?
What to say? Yeah, I'll just pick up from that and to say that yeah, I do think that creativity is a path towards healing, and yeah, I really believe in collaboration. I grow with it every day, and this was a wonderful opportunity. I hope that yeah, we get to do this more often, basically. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Maputo, Fast Forward, Elodie, Ernestina, Trindade, Evaristo, for this amazing opportunity. And that statement, it's real. If you want to make that thing happen, we are the people that can make that thing happen. Just approach and let's study what is the best way, because we have families too. So we have to see how we can do it. Besides that, I make electronic music and I want to share that knowledge with everyone in the upcoming generation of Mozambique. Thank you very much. Maputo Fast Forward, César, Valerie, love you all. Take it away, my friends.
Valerie?
Yeah, it's been a really positive experience, and I think there are many things that we must continue working on. And I hope that this is not the end of this project. I really hope that we can take this forward in terms of just, again, making it more accessible, because we do have the issue of access. I hope that we can take up the challenge that Felwine Sarr also put forward. And just with the last statement about creating art, about healing, and about creating dialogue, I think it's good to have spaces where we can continue to commune, continue to come up with solutions, and make community together, because, you know, it starts small, but this is how we change things slowly. And I'd also like to thank César and João and Nandele and Rui and Elodie and Ernestina for everything they have done and the experience and what they've taught me through this residency. I think a lot of the time, sometimes we think an artwork has to be a certain way, it has to be complete in a certain way. And this process has really taught me that the process can be the artwork. So yeah, thank you.
My turn. Yes, I want to thank Maputo Fast Forward. This is a really wonderful platform. I collaborate with Maputo Fast Forward for the first time in 2018. I was amazed by it, and I had the chance to collaborate again. And I think this is something that we are building up, and I'm sure we will collaborate in the future. Thank you, Rui. I can consider that you are a kind of a big brother now, for your advice and your time and your patience and all the conversation that we have besides this. Thank you, Elodie. Thank you, Tina, everybody in the organization. It was a wonderful 3 months. Thank you, the artists, for your generosity. Thank you, Nandele. Thank you, João and Valerie. I wanted to invite you. We could meet up in Dakar in 2022 for Les Ateliers de la Pensée. Les Ateliers de la Pensée, it's an important platform put together by Felwine Sarr and the other guy. Sorry, but Les Ateliers de la Pensée, it's a very important thinking platform. We could meet up there. And I would like to see this work to expand. I would like to see thinkers, journalists, people to talk about it and to share it and to travel around the world. So see you all in the future. And I'm deeply touched by all this experience. Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you once again, all of you. It was really thrilling experience for all of us. And I think that the suggestion by César that we all meet in Dakar might be not so fanciful, because actually yesterday I think that the ground was laid a little bit between us and Felwine, and also Mia Couto was there. And the interest that I think Les Ateliers de la Pensée, the event that Achille Mbembe and Felwine have set up, is really one of the most interesting places for this kind of conversations. So I really do hope that we meet in 2022, and let's hope that we'll make it happen, and let's keep on doing things together. Thank you.